Welcome back. Ahead of a week when attention turns back to the state capitol and the start of the legislative session, there is more troubling news for Houston ISD. It appears the state's largest school district has drawn a very powerful critic in Governor Greg Abbott, who this week made his feelings known with a scathing attack on Twitter. Abbott wrote, quote, "What a joke. HISD leadership is a disaster. Their self-centered ineptitude has failed the children they are supposed to educate. If ever there was a school board that needs to be taken over and reformed, it's HISD. Their students and parents deserve change," end quote. The governor's attack came in response to a Houston Chronicle editorial which urged resistance to a takeover of HISD by the Texas Education Agency. Tony, are you urging resistance to that takeover?
I tell you what, that op-ed was powerful. I want to quote one line. It said, "Return power to the students, the parents, and the teachers." This intrusion by the Texas State Board of Education under this Republican governor, Abbott, is unfair, it's wrong, and he has just created a movement for Houston Independent School District. In that editorial, you had folks from Black Lives Matter, you had Anglos, African Americans. At the protest against Orlando Sanchez's public debacle, you had Latinos there as well. We have a rainbow coalition that's going to oppose this. And what's really disappointing, I really wish Abbott would talk about how testing is hurting our youth. I wish he would talk about retention rate for African American and Latino students. I wish he would talk about the conditions for teachers. And there's something really odd about this. I really find it odd that you've got a governor of a state micromanaging a local school district. And there's two laws I'm worried about. If Republicans can't win elections, they're going to create laws where they take away the power of who we voted in. Because you see that in the bogus law that lets them come in and stick their nose in our backyard. And also SB 4, where people can lose their power. That's un-American and that's not Texan. This has got to stop.
Okay, why is Abbott getting involved in this, you think?
Well, the state agency has been involved with this. The governor is simply making a comment on it, and it's not a comment that most people disagree with. I mean, we've been sitting here talking about how incompetent this school board as a unit, okay? I'm not saying individuals, but as a unit, they are not performing for the benefit of these students in these classrooms, and they're not good stewards of our taxpayer money that's investing in this system. Something needs to change. I think that we would all prefer a local solution, but it doesn't seem to be there. So the governor pulling the ripcord, if the state has to come in and take over, that is an emergency solution in an emergency situation. And apparently and clearly we are rising to emergency levels.
Okay, Senator Betancourt has filed legislation to make 4 of those seats at large and moving away from, a totally single-member district board. Tomaro, what's your read as you watch the governor stick his finger right in the middle of this mess?
Look, anybody that say there aren't problems at the HISD board, you are not being realistic. I do not believe that TEA is the solution because of the problems that they did when they took over North Forest. And let me back this up. The reason we went to individual districts was because the black schools were underrepresented. That's how that started. This board that is currently in there, as an encompassing that whole board, they have major issues. When you have the racist decisions and the violation of the Public Meetings Act to overturn the leadership, you got problems. And nobody is looking at the effects this is having on the children. And that is my problem. And when the governor talking about that the TEA needs to come in, I'm gonna tell you something. When we voted for lottery years ago, that was supposed to help public schools. We didn't have to worry about schools being poor. Now you have them taking the Robin Hood money, taking money, saying that Houston is rich, but the population of HISD is not. That money is needed here. It is needed here to help students.
Okay, real quick.
Dallas ISD is doing something right. Houston needs to be taken over and look to see why is Dallas doing better than we are? Because their board is competent and they're not corrupt.
Okay, real quick, man.
Yeah, Governor Abbott is the last person responsible for this. It's the administration of HISD that is completely responsible for the mess.
Real quick.
I had a conversation with one of the trustees, and it was clear that there's dissension on the board. There are 4 that are in the majority that are for taken over, and then the 3 that are against it are saying leave it for the people. That's the problem. You need to select new people in these positions. We don't need to be taken over.
Okay, we're going to switch gears. The American economy generated 312,000 new jobs last month as the landmark $1.5 trillion Republican tax cut turns a year old. It's appropriate to pause for an assessment. Now, on the positive side, economic growth has predictably picked up and corporate profits have risen. On the negative side, the federal deficit has surged sharply, wage gains have been anemic, and it appears companies are using much of the windfall to buy back their stock at record levels. And while some businesses are hiring, others are firing, trimming their payrolls to maximize profit. Bottom line, the jury is still out on this gigantic stab at supply-side economics. Jacob Monty, you think this is going to work?
Well, it's the one thing Trump has done right. This and deregulation, it's helping the economy, and it's creating a booming economy. And notwithstanding Trump's trade moves that are a disaster, this is the one thing he got right. Good job, Trump, on this one issue.
You know, has this stimulus, and that's what it is, really, a stimulus. Is it just like throwing gasoline on a fire? It burns out quickly. I mean, who wants to jump in? Nyanza?
I think the issue is what you touched on was great. The businesses are making more profit, but the middleman and the working people are not seeing it in their pocketbooks, especially when you're more concerned about tax breaks for the rich. The rich are very happy. So if the rich are the ones that own all the businesses, they're getting all these breaks. You've added to a deficit that's magnanimous. So now you're saying, oh, I don't see it in my pocketbook, and neither do those 800,000 government workers that are furloughed, but the $10,000 that the cabinet members got on their paycheck, they're seeing it, but that's their party.
Okay, so I guess the unemployment rate's 3.9%. I wonder if they're going to include those 800,000 next
I
month.
wonder.
Ben, jump in here on this.
No, I mean,
that's
that's just not factually accurate. Wages are growing 3.2%. That's the fastest rate in 12 years. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, the wet blanket of Obama business persecution was removed at the time of the election. So the regulation's been dialed back. Business can make decisions about what they want to do with their money without fear of having the rules change on them in the middle of the game. So this thing is accelerated over the last 2 years. It has mostly to do with Trump, not entirely, but mostly to do with his administration. He deserves credit for this, because I'd be the first one to criticize him if he didn't.
Tomaro, jump in here.
Anybody who says that this isn't occurring because of the stimulus packages that Obama put out, they're not being realistic.
That's right.
This didn't just start with him. This started before that. In addition to that, I'm from Indiana. The steel workers are in Pittsburgh and all of that. They're upset with the owners of the steel companies because they're keeping the profits and they're not giving it to them. And the unions took pay cuts and took less benefits when times were hard. Now times better, they're not reaping the benefits. And you said that they had 300,000 jobs increase in December. Who don't hire Christmas help?
Right.
Okay, Jessica, 312,000 jobs. We did say the jury's out, but do you think this is going to work in the long run for America?
I do. I think it's going to be a winning issue for re-election, and I'm going to yield some time to Streusand to rebut tomorrow.
Yeah, because steel workers are the happiest people in the world with President Trump right now because of the steel tariffs. They are all have jobs and they're hiring left and right.
That is not happening in Gary, Indiana. Let me explain it to you where the steel mill is still open. That the unions are upset. This was even on 60 Minutes because they didn't get the benefits that they gave up reinstated.
To be continued. Still ahead. Our panel is going to answer that question, what did we miss? So stay with us. We'll be right back.